So we're talking about time bending and civilizations and different things in history that are being created out of this time bend. Also, when time is bending, different parts of the earth are reacting. Civilizations are being created in history, and the earth is reacting, and the universe is reacting. Alright? So the earth reacting, the earth is like a game board, or like a board, right? With moving parts. We'll draw circles for moving parts. Because remember, these are all angels or jinns on the earth, helping to describe the portrait of the person in existence. So this is the earth, and in the earth there are moving parts, right? So Dirk, whenever he's doing something, the earth reacts to always record each day. And sometimes the reactions are in a time bend. Because remember I was telling you that time dimension, we think time is chronological, but it actually bends. Meaning that the best way to describe the time bend is the Bermuda Triangle. In the Bermuda Triangle is a resemblance of an Egyptian pyramid, which would be Egypt. In the Bermuda Triangle, there is distortion in navigation with planes and boats in the Bermuda Triangle. What the Bermuda Triangle is describing is what's going on with man, who is God. Egypt is the way that this angel describes painting this portrait of this person, and this person seeing his portrait. That is Egypt. This angel making something that this person, the leader, disagrees with is also Egypt. These angels rebelling against this person is also Egypt. Okay? So according to the Bible and the Quran, there is Egypt. So I'm going to try and do this here. Let's see how to do this. We'll go to signs and symbols, and we'll take this out. And I remember trying to tell you there's a ranking system of the Lord, God, and Jesus. Jesus is perfect, so everything underneath it, which is mankind, is the devil, Lucifer, and Satan, or demons. Now, demons means the letter D, because they all come from Dirk, because Dirk is God, and they're all man or mon, which is where you get demon. Means D. Mon means a person. In Jamaica, they call them mon. Right? They say yaman. So here, mon could also be described as man, but it could also be described as mom. So demon. They are the things that come from the person with the letter D, which is Dirk. Remember I was telling you with Dirk, because they're 4 letters, you'll get things like 40 days and 40 nights and stuff like that. Wherever you see the number 40, it'll always mean Dirk, and then O. So this is where you get demon, because they're all under the ranking system of heaven, and then there's hell. So we're also talking about Bible code again. Not Bible code, heaven's code, or the code of existence. So if Dirk is the light, the angel sees itself as the darkness. Because they are woe man, or woe men. So he's the light, so they're the darkness. But he's the light and the darkness. He's the Alpha and Omega. And she just considers herself the darkness and the rest of them. So we're talking about heaven's code. So there's something called the Holy Bible. So because B-I-B replicates itself, you're left with Holy L-E. Now a capital E turns itself sideways. If this E were to turn sideways, it makes an M. So this M is actually an E, and this E is actually an M. So this is where you get Miranda, and this is also where you get Egypt. So Egypt in the Bible actually means gypped. Something to steal. Gyp, when something is gypped, it's stolen. This is why Eve, when she makes a creation of how she sees herself, Eve is an angel of the word thief, meaning to steal. That's how you spell Eve, right? Eve, this is called angels again. When something rhymes, Eve and thief, you notice that the pronunciation Eve is in thief, because she steals something from man. So this is called Egypt or Egypt. Now holy, when you take the E and the L and you switch it backwards, it pronounces holy L or holy hell, from the word Holy Bible, meaning holy hell. Because remember the ranking system of Jesus, and then those under Jesus, which is the devil, demons, Satans, and then we'll get into what the word devil and Satan and all that stuff means. So holy L means holy hell, right? So it's holy Li or holy L. Li is also an Asian name, and Asia, the people that are Asian, is where you get the tribe of Simon from the Bible. Which means to be Simon, this is where it gets complicated, means the slanted eye, people. The Sai or the slanted eye men or people, mankind, which are Asians. And then that's why a Japanese vehicle is the Scion, which is underneath the Toyota. And the T in Toyota means Dirk. The T means a Dirk. Remember I said Dirk is a sword, which is a cross, which is the letter T. So under it is Sion, and then from Sion you get Zion, which is the Jews, Zion. But we'll get into that later. So we're talking about Egypt and the Bermuda Triangle and how things in existence happen. The things in existence, remember I said things in existence are made in the image of this person. So everything that's happened in history, he has to recognize from these signs and symbols that he knows that correlates to him in order for him to show others who are angels or lower angels or angels, lower angels, that he is God and the Lord. So remember I said this is the Bermuda Triangle. Okay, and this is Egypt. Now, in the book of Genesis, Bible, it says the top was a firmament and the bottom had a firmament or a covenant, and which means like a code, and the bottom had a code. Okay. People are living in the top pyramid, which is Egypt. And the pyramid has 3 parts. Just like Jesus is the Trinity, it has 3 parts. One here, one here, one here. This is a Trinity. Okay. So, as time bends in the Bermuda Triangle, in the book of Genesis, it says the top was made water, and the bottom was made water. This is because the female created, which is this angel in heaven, or he's in heaven and she is created in likeness of him. She's an Aquarius, right? And the sign of Aquarius is water, or her sign is water. So because she is water, she has to describe this person. And in describing this person in the portrait, she also has to include herself and then all the other angels that are created from her. And all of them are coming from him. So, the top and the bottom are made water because they're made in the image of her, painting herself, guarding him. Because they are guards. Their angels are also guards. Now these angels are capabilities of going through time and bending time. So even if you killed all these angels, they'll still be in existence. They can't be killed. So you can just get that idea out your head for any who are thinking that. So the top and the water made water according to the Bible. Now remember I said existence is explained in different religions. So here we're going to use the biblical explanation because it's the most known here in the U.S. Each explanation in the Quran, everyone has a different explanation, but they all lead up to the same thing. Like for instance, Muhammad, his name, A-M-M-A, they cancel each other out because of the code of existence, and it spells mud. Now Dirk, when it's angled, is angled as dirt, or earth, or soil, because man came from dirt, which came from Dirk. So, and this is in the book of Genesis. So mud is a form of dirt, and mud is a form of dirt. So Muhammad actually means dirt, man. It wasn't an actual person named Muhammad. But remember, these are all things that are coming from the portrait, and only he knows the truth as to how the portrait was made to describe existence. I remember we're talking about Jesus, and the G of Genesis and the G of Jesus means God. So Jesus is God. And then the J in Jesus is where you get Jamaica, which means Jah made ya, or you. Jamaica. Jah made you, or Jah made ya. Jamaica. So top and the water were made. Now, the reason why they say water is because when you put your hand in water, the water has to encompass the hand. So everything that the hand does can be calculated by the water. Let's say the water was like a high-tech intelligence water or computer. Everything that the hand does has to be accounted for by the water. So they use the example water as well to describe the top. So as the story in the Bible goes, the top, which was water, became the sun and air and all this stuff, which we'll get into that later, but it's describing other forms of like a baby being born and all this stuff. So the top is also still water, but people think that it's the sun and trees and clouds and all that stuff. So if the top is still water, that means that the top is still fish. There's still fish in the top part of the water. So because Jesus is God, Jesus is in the book of Matthew. Matthew, can't remember how to spell because this person is bothering me. Matthew means math. Remember I told you everything comes from mathematics? So you get Matthew as the first disciple that wrote the book of the New Testament. So Matthew and the book of Genesis are the same thing, because they both are describing Jesus, who is God. So Matthew is where you get math, and then you get people like Matthias and other people like that in the Bible. And then you'll have 4 people who are known in the Bible as Matthew, Luke, John, Mark. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's how it's supposed to be said. See, the devil is tickling my anus while I'm trying to write this so that they can try to mess with me. And this is why this stuff needs to be said so it can be found and judged. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The reason why there are only 4 known testaments that are significant, or the most significant of the disciples, because they're 4 letters, meaning Dirk. The reason why there are 12 months in the year is because Dirk is born on the 21st. So 21 backwards, if you take the 2 and the 1, it makes it 12. So this is where you get 12 months of the year, 12 disciples of Jesus. You get 12 on the clock. And the clock eventually forms 24. And the 2 and the 4 means 2 Dirk. That's what 24 hours means. Right? So all these things are coded because only God, who is the Lord, who is Jesus, who is also Solomon, is the and the Buddha and all the other creation stories. Okay. So this is where Jesus says he meets Peter and Andrew in the New Testament. what I was thinking over here was Hinduism, to try to explain how the angels see themselves when they write the portrait of this person. And the Hindus is because they say that they are little gods reflecting God, because he is like the father and this is the mother and the daughters, or this is the father, the husband, and these are the daughters. So the Hindus, they say that each one of them, because they can become male and female, they represent themselves as different gods. And the god that they're replicating themselves from is the Buddha. And the Buddha is Jesus. If you look at the Buddha, it's a baby, it's a little baby that they worship looking like an adult. So the recreation story is recreated also from Asia, and it moves down the line to Western society. So the east of China and Japan and all that of the Buddha is describing Jesus being born, or yin yang. And then from there the Hindus are the angels here toward drawing the portrait. And this is where you get the serpent, because in India they worship snakes. And this is where the serpent comes from in the Bible. Now, because Dirk is male and these are all female, they can't be male. So the P, which looks like a penis and balls, you see the balls here and the penis, turns into a V to mean Eve. E-V-E. So serpent becomes servant, meaning the servant of the Lord. So the Peter and Andrew capitalized as A, N, and the N turns into a Z, which means Alpha, Omega, Drew. Drew means to draw. Alpha Omega draws, because she is drawing a portrait of this person. So when she draws things in existence, everything has to be drawn. All this stuff is drawn and created to replicate God, which she is making. So all these history books and all this stuff, and movies and CDs and all this stuff, she is drawing things that are being replicated through the brain, the human brain, and through just existence in general. All of these books are coded to mean something that comes back to describing this person or a time and event. So in the heightness of the Armageddon, if I picked out one of those books and I opened it to any page, it would describe me trying to describe existence. So the dog touches the newspaper, right? So the dog went and touched the newspaper just now. So it says here, a seat at the table, because it looks like a table and I'm sitting down and doing this. Alright. The story is written by Manuel Torres Torres means Taurus, which means bull. And then it says, and Lee Zurich. Zurich is another way of saying Dirk, because of the Rick. Lee, remember I said tribe of Simon? Manuel means Emmanuel, or Jesus. Torres means to take a tour, but it also means Taurus, the bull, and one of the zodiology signs. Philippines, whenever you see Philippines, it means the middle finger. It is the highest and the tallest finger on the hand. And each finger represents something. The index finger means Proverbs, an index. The thumb would mean like the world, because it is fat. The pinky represents different religions. The marriage finger would represent the angels. And the middle finger represents Solomon, or Dirk, or the Lord. So it says, typhoon with 235-mile-an-hour gusts slams Philippines. So Philippines means like the tallest or the highest. So the 25 is in there to mean December 25, and the 3 means Trinity. So then it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So whenever you see a 1 and a 0 means Lord, 1 means Lord, and 0 means Solomon. I think I said that earlier. So what happens, alright, the problem in New Orleans is that there was a war, and Armageddon had to do with New Orleans. That's why Hurricane Katrina happened. So what happens in newspapers is that each person is moved to reflect something. Remember I told you the angel is trying to paint a portrait? So every day in the news, this looks like separate incidences, but they're all interconnected. You see how the very first page I turned to, it says 40% off, to mean 4 means Dirk, and the off is trying to say like it might be turned off, like Dirk is turned off. Like in Miami in South Florida, I was getting a lot of interpretations good, but New Orleans and I have a problem because of the lost fallen angel kingdom. But anyways, Mary means Mother Mary from the Bible. So it says Mary Landrew. She's a senator here because she reflects opal. Different things will reflect Dirk. This one is written by Catherine. Catherine means Catholics. This one is written by Lauren because Dirk is the law. The female way of the female interpreting herself is saying Lauren. Here it says Juliet, which means Jew, meaning of Dirk. And then it says, it has a picture of Robert. Robert means Rob Dirk. And that's Opal's brother. Then it says, then it's written here, another article is written by a different Robert. You see? It's showing that New Orleans is not giving, the angels are not doing, remember I told you the rebelling angels? So it's showing that there would be a problem here. Ben means the tribe of Benjamin, and that's because of Ben Franklin here at the high school and stuff like that. We'll get into all that later. So, alright, what happens, and this is going to explain the shooting at LAX. Here's a Bible, which means holy hell. The Bible is written in the same way that the man is written, that it has interchangeable meanings that are taken from one core meaning, and the Bible is written in the image of Dirk. That's why most Bibles will have, I think 1,200 pages, or some of them. So what would happen is I could pick out one of these books and it'll describe what is going on. So this one's called The End of Time. So we're talking about the book of Revelation. So this would probably be a good book. Um, let's see. What would be another book? The best thing to do is have somebody else pick out the book and then return to the page. Alright, the story of Jamaican people, since we're talking about everything comes from Jamaica. Alright, let's just get this over with. The end of time. So we'll open up a page and see if it talks about what we're talking about. Okay. So this page, if there's anything, remember it has to reflect like an angel what's going on here. So this angel has the capability of seeing before I even know what I'm turning to, or not know what I'm turning to, but can see that I'm going to turn to this page. And all of these things, let's say this was a history book, these things in history would be manipulated to reflect Dirk turning to this page on this date, November 7th or November 8th. So it says the freedom fighters. So freedom fighters. Okay. I'm going to show you how the angels interact in real time. Remember I said Robert means to rob Dirk? And the angels that rebel, which would be those angels painting the portrait in existence, are trying to be free, or like away from Dirk. So people don't know why this page was written, but I'm going to show you. It says the freedom fighters benefiting from surprise. So the article here is already saying that this is going to be a surprise. Defeated a party of the militia. And militia has to do with David, but we'll get into that later. The unrest was not limited to Westmoreland. West is because we're talking about the Buddha. Okay, this is what's happening. Remember we were talking about the Buddha here, and then the religion's going to the west. So because I placed the book down right here, it says Westmoreland. It's reflecting me putting the book here because it can see me in reality before I'm doing something. Discontent in Hanover. Hanover means the hand. And St. James, James means the cross, because all of the Bibles come from England, and England is where King James come from. That's where you get King James Bible. Was ruthlessly repressed. So it's saying that something is being repressed, like me teaching. The ringleaders, the reason why they say ringleaders is because earlier over here I had a picture of rings describing existence. You see? Remember I had rings and I said these rings is describing motion, and this motion has to describe existence. So I'm just showing you how existence is being manipulated by these angels and this person who is Dirk. So as the ringleaders were executed. Finally, after some months, okay, so executed would mean like crucified, the same way how Jesus was crucified. The things in existence are being regarded as these angels, saying that they're being crucified and that they're being taken up to heaven, meaning that they're being sacrificed to teach heaven. So it says, finally, after some months, the freedom fighters were defeated, but not after sporadic outbreaks in many parts of the island. So it's talking about freedom fighters, those who are rebelling against a system, including Kingston. Kingston means king, ton, like the king of kings land, where a female slave called Cuba, Queen of Kingston, was transported to Cuba. So remember I said this is the male, so the male is the king and this is a woman. So this is considered the queen of revelations, and these are considered queens of the queen. And these queens, or all these queens, come from the king. So it says, where a female slave called Cuba, Queen of Kingston, was transported to Cuba. Okay, Cuba means cubicle. When something is cubed, like 3 cubed or 2 cubed. When something is cubed, that means that it's very, in the meaning that it means in the system, it means that something is analyzed very meticulously. So when Jesus said, I'm going to make you fishers of men, because they were fishermen, what they were trying to do is that they were trying to fish to find out, how to teach God. And we're going to get into how God is taught in the real world through religions. They're worshipped at the very sub-level. And what I'm teaching you here is at the very top level. Well, not the very top level, but somewhere around here. I can't teach you the top, or else then, because it's almost impossible to teach the top. The only way to get to the top is to be one of the wives of Dirk, which is why Solomon has 700 wives and 300 concubines. But cubed means to be meticulous, which is where you get the country of Cuba, and then Cuban, and then we'll get into Fidel Castro and Che being made in the image of Jesus and all that stuff. Queen of Kingston was transported to Cuba, but somehow succeeded in returning to Jamaica. Landed in Hanover, meaning the hand, was captured and executed. Hart, 1985. So the numbers 1985 will add up to something. The woman stood shoulder to shoulder with men, for freedom was not a male prerogative. The woman stood shoulder to shoulder with the men. So remember, we're saying beside the man here. Anyways, the 1760s were turbulent, with the Comanche in the lead, plotting, conspiring from one end of the island to another. Thus, in 1765, there was a private meeting of several Comanche headmen who entered into a conspiracy for a fresh insurrection to take place immediately after the Christmas holidays. Christmas, because we're talking about Christ Mass, which is December 25th. That's what Christmas means. It means Christ Mass. I'm not going to go through all this because this stuff is not important. This is not the core. This is just a reflection. So it's going to start reflecting certain things. It says, on the night of 29 November. So November is because Dirk is born in November, which is God, which is the Lord. The works in the trash houses at Whitehall Plantation were set on fire. So fire, and we'll get into all this stuff. So anyways, this was on page 144, the story of Jamaican people. And 145. Okay, fire, because it has an E in there, when it's turned sideways, it means firm, which means a law firm, which means law. So fire comes from the sun. You understand? Fire. So when he speaks fire, which is law. Because fire is firm, and firm means law firm. Everything is interconnected. Okay, the Bermuda Triangle going up and the Bermuda Triangle going down. It says the top was water, the bottom was water, which is here and here. The fish, which is the signs and symbols. Jesus says, come with me, Peter. Peter, the E, the T, the E, which means Ida, or Etta. This is why Shanga and Iman's cousin's name is Ida from England. Because England means the cross, which means Dirk. So the P and the R are left, which stands for purr, P-R, purr, which means a cat. Now cats are made in the image of a dog, which is God, but they're made with serpent eyes. Their eyes are of snakes. If you ever look at a cat's eyes, it's the eye of a snake or a reptile. A dog is made like a human because of the way the eyes are made. So when you see the conquering lion of Judah, the lion is in a cat's body, but it has the eyes of a dog, meaning that the brain is of a dog. So Andrew. So Andrew means to draw all this stuff, which would mean like these angels. And Peter would mean per, which would mean like the cat, which would mean the female. So the two pyramids coming together around this person is what makes the Star of David. This is how people see the world now, an Egyptian pyramid. They don't know why it is. It's called sealed. It's unrevealed. So the top and the bottom have a firmament. So this Egypt and this Egypt, stop touching my anus. They come together and they form the Star of David, which is a star, which means God. This is where the Jews get their God thing. So this top and this bottom, this is supposed to represent the hidden, this is supposed to represent what's seen. Humanity only sees this as this part. So what he does is he brings the bottom and the top together to show how they interconnect heaven and hell, or hell and heaven. And it makes the Star of David, one Egyptian pyramid going up, one pyramid going down, but they connect together. And this Star of David is trying to reflect religions, and religions are trying to reflect existence. So the Star of David is showing how time is bending around this person. Remember saying time is bending? Time is bending around this person so that different things can be formed from this angel and these angels, painting portraits of him. So the Jews worship the stars together, but that flag is supposed to actually look like this because they're in incorrection, they're in stupidity, or they're in not intelligence. Because they're just worshiping the one Egyptian pyramid, which is 7 sealed. 7 means heaven, because they rhyme. Remember, everything is angled into meaning one thing, or everything is made in likeness of each other. So 7 means heaven. Now, a person who would be trying to do what I'm doing, they'll go, well, 7 means Clevin and Revan, and, they'll do all that stuff, and some things might be true, but they don't know the core reason as to why they're true, so they won't understand. The only person that would understand is the person who is the Lord, who is God. So, the fish are the signs and symbols in existence. So Jesus says, let me teach you math in the book of Matthew. And this is all math, which is signs and symbols. So I guess, so when the Armageddon starts from Hurricane Katrina, well, the Armageddon starts from, alright, there are different interpretations of how to view the Armageddon. But the Armageddon is how, like, people would say, dragons and lions and, women get together and fly on, brooms of witches and have a tampon comparing contest. That sort of Armageddon happened from 2005 to present time with Hurricane Katrina. But the actual Armageddon started from 2003, and then the Armageddon, which is the book of Revelations, actually starts from the beginning of existence, if you want to be technical. Anyways, Hurricane Katrina washes this place out, and this is because Katrina means katana. A katana is a sword. It's a Japanese sword. Which means like the hurricane of the sword, which means the hurricane of the Dirk. And Katrina comes from a friend of Dirk's named Katrina Epson. And she is one of the angels or jinns around Dirk. Now, all the women who are around Dirk, they're considered angels or jinns. And they're supposed to be wives to Dirk and concubines. Now, this is important. The earth in existence is moved through him, but it is thrown out of balance when these women who Dirk selects are not serving Dirk. Like how women would serve their king, because Dirk is King Solomon. The 700 wives, the 7 means heaven, and the 300 concubines means Trinity, because he is God, heaven, and he is Jesus. And these women, the 700 wives, are concubines, are representing him being God and the Lord. So Dirk's last name starts with an M. I remember I said M from Miranda, also is an E. But the E also turned upside down makes a W. You see how they change? And this is where you get woe, men. This is where you get Egypt. So because things are in a time bend, okay, the reason why there's different religions and stuff like that is because of the book of Revelations. And also, if Dirk, let's say, wanted to have a big palace with his and his women, then once everything the Armageddon has been collected, he can go to the women of the women, which would be like governments. Well, he can go to the government. Inside these women, there's the government and different governments and different like church leaders, different people with money and power, who are all looking for him. They're looking for him because they know he exists, but they don't know where to find him. Now, the women who have been fortunate enough to be around him, this goes into like ranking order. The people who Dirk meets through the government and through power and churches and stuff like that, to a certain extent, are only supposed to speak to him through his women, because they are females. The word females means a fee, meaning a bill to be paid. This is where you get Bill Clinton. Clinton is a jinn of the word Lincoln. And Lincoln is where you get Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln is where you get Abraham from the Bible. So a bill. So you'll see that Mary Landrieu from Louisiana, or LA, and LA also means Los Angeles, which also means lost angels. Bill Clinton, the card Lincoln makes a cross. The Lincoln cars, because they're trying to show Dirk. So a female means to be servitude to the male. It's a fee. It's something that they have to pay towards him because they've been in debt from creation, from existence in 1982 when Dirk is born. And they just put themselves more in debt, which is ridiculous. So Bill Clinton is where you get Lincoln, then you get Abraham Lincoln, and then Abraham. So Abraham is where one of the Eves, these are considered Eves, name is Rochelle. Her father and mother are known as Abrahams or Abrams. The Abrams means Abraham. So she's one of the Eves that helped start the Armageddon. And then there's the Los Angeles stuff. But there's a problem in Armageddon, and the women, who consist of Amy, Rochelle, Katrina, Tamika, Diana, they all get into argument. There's a problem. So Dirk is doing this to show them as to why they are sinful. Okay, sinful. This person goes on Mount Sinai. Sinai means the mountain of signs, and signs means sins. Mount Sinai means the mountain of signs and the mountain of sins. And from here, this person learns all of these ways of God. Okay, really quickly, God from the Bible describes him as a baby, as to why God is full of wrath, and a young boy, because the angel is drawing depictions of this boy being young. And the young boys are destructive, so they always say the wrath of God. And then when he becomes older, he becomes more mature, and so Jesus is kind of formed. He's always Jesus, but the New Testament would mean like more mature in a certain extent. But what the rebelling angels do is that they have Jesus, whom is God, redo the entire Revelations, and this creates an Armageddon as to why there's supposed to be nuclear war and all this asteroids falling out of the sky as brimstone and fire and stuff like that. So well, how you can tell that Armageddon was going on, or is going on, is that you'll find in Egypt people will be rioting. Now different countries, remember I was telling you the story of existence, different countries have different symbolisms. So Egypt would mean like bondage, because it means Egypt, meaning to steal, meaning like the woman is stealing laws from the man who is God. So then you have Syria. Syria means seriousness. You have Damascus, which means demask us. You have Israel, which means Israel, which is what I'm doing here. I'm showing you that all this stuff is real. Israel means the five senses, which is taste, touch, everything in existence is real. Sight, all those things. Stop touching me, Satan. Sound, hearing. Stop touching me. Taste, touch, and sight. So these things, Israel is Israel. So Islam would mean is the Lamb of God, which is known as Jesus. So different places react for different reasons. Damascus means like of the mouth. Syria means of the consciousness, which means seriousness. So they'll be placed on a map describing the mind, which is heaven, and the mouth, Damascus, meaning to speak what is going on or reveal the seven seals, Damascus. So then from there, you'll have Africa, which would be the butt of the woman and the legs, and then the vagina. And then the vagina would be represented as Ethiopia. But everything is in male form, so this could also mean the penis and the balls. But it's supposed to mean the female. So we can get into like Middle East places like the Jordan. Jordan has to do with Michael Jordan from the Chicago Bulls. And Chicago has to do with Eve, the rapper. I mean, everything is interconnected, but it takes like hours and hours and hours to explain it. So Michael Jordan would mean Michael, the Archangel Michael. And then the female way of saying Michael is Michelle. So as to why you have Michelle Obama. And then Jordan had the number 23, and Jordan is from the Jordan River. Michael Jordan's a representation of Blanche, which is one of the angels that come from Opal. And the number 23, which would mean 2, the Trinity. Because it's 2, 3. And the 3 also makes an M, which also makes an E, which also makes a W. You see how these are all signs, but because they're all covered by seals, you don't know that they're all interconnected. And then this has a certain number in the alphabet. The M, the E, and the W. So we'll get into that later. So this is why I need my female servants, is that everything in existence has to be coded and written out so that we can make plans on if we want to get a big palace or if we want to get a little mansion with a bunch of servants walking around in bikinis and eating good food. So this is why I need the female servants, just to help decode the things in heaven, or help decode, so that can make future plans.